They looked at her like she didn't belong. The polished floors of Hudson Lux Plaza reflected back the heels of high society shoppers and silk assistants trailing behind, and her. Emily Parker. Wearing worn jeans, a neatly ironed blouse, and a quiet determination. When she stepped into Arclight timepieces, the luxury watch store whispered about in Forbes and GQ, the air shifted. Not from her, but around her. The manager glanced up and in that second judged her entire worth. An awkward silence. Then came the forced smile, the subtle glance at the security guard, the unspoken message, "She can't possibly afford anything here." But what they didn't know was that Emily wasn't here by accident. And in less than 10 minutes, the man who owned this entire plaza would walk through those doors and ask her, "Did you find what you were looking for?" Sunlight filtered softly through the thin curtains, casting pale golden stripes on the small wooden table. Emily Parker sat quietly in her compact studio apartment just over 350 square feet. Her breakfast, a single slice of toasted bread smeared with peanut butter and a steaming cup of cheap black tea. Nothing fancy, but everything was tidy, intentional. Above the shelf sat a worn photo, a younger Emily with an elderly man both smiling beneath a maple tree. Mr. Walter, her guardian, her only real family. She glanced at the photo and smiled. "Your birthday's coming up, old man. Time to do something special." Emily wasn't rich, but she didn't complain. Today, though, she had made a decision. She would step into a world of polished glass and velvet trays, not to impress anyone, not to prove anything, but because she owed him more than words could ever say. Emily stood in front of the mirror sleeves, rolled up ironing with care. The white button-down shirt wasn't new, but it was clean and pressed. She'd had it since her last job interview. Her dark jeans had no holes, just a bit faded. She laid them on the bed, smoothing the fabric gently like preparing for something important. She opened her closet, only a handful of pieces hung inside. She picked the one pair of shoes she reserved for nice days. Black flats with slightly worn soles but still holding shape. At her dresser, she applied a touch of lip balm, tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, and looked at herself. Not glamorous, not rich, but ready. "Let's make today count," she whispered. She wasn't chasing attention. She just wanted to walk into that store holding her head high as someone with purpose and heart. The train rattled through the city's underbelly lights, flickering past the windows like restless thoughts. Emily sat near the door, hands folded over her purse. Her pressed shirt and neat jeans felt out of place, too formal for a weekday commute, too plain for Fifth Avenue. Across from her, a woman in designer heels glanced down at Emily's shoes, then up at her face, then quickly away. Emily noticed but didn't react. She simply adjusted her collar and looked out the window as the train slowed near 59th Street. "You don't need to explain yourself," she told herself silently. "Not today." She clutched the envelope in her bag, a card for Mr. Walter with a note she rewrote 3 times to get just right. The train chimed. Next stop, Lexington and 63rd. Transfer to Q. She stood. The platform awaited. So did the marble floors and glass showcases of Hudson Lux. The escalator glided upward, revealing a world built for someone else. Hudson Lux Plaza wasn't just a mall. It was an empire of polished glass, designer fragrances, and slow-moving elegance. Crystal chandeliers dangled from vaulted ceilings. Every corner shimmered with curated excess. Emily stepped off the escalator, blinking beneath the brightness. Her flats clicked softly against marble tiles. Around her, people glided in leather loafers and stilettos, toting shopping bags that cost more than her rent. She tightened her grip on her purse and followed the gold-lettered signs, Arclight timepieces, Level 2. A pair of teenagers in head-to-toe name brands brushed past her. One of them laughed. She wasn't sure if it was at her, but it landed anyway. "Just walk. You have every right to be here," she reminded herself. Still, every step felt heavier, because this world didn't just sparkle. It watched and judged. The glass doors of Arclight timepieces whispered shut behind her. Inside, everything smelled like cedar and confidence. Each watch rested on velvet like it had its own story. Spotlights gave them halos. Price tags didn't show because if you had to ask, you probably shouldn't be here. Emily stepped forward, careful not to scuff the floor. She took in the clean lines, the heavy silence, the way everyone spoke softly, if at all. From behind the central counter, a man looked up. Tall, well-groomed, late 30s. He adjusted his tie, scanned her like a barcode, then slowly made his way over. "Good afternoon," he said. "May I help you?" His voice was polite, practiced, but not warm. Emily smiled just enough. "I'm looking for a birthday gift, for someone very dear to me." The man didn't ask who, he just nodded once. "We offer premium collections. Just a heads up, our entry range begins at around $12,000. Her smile held. But inside, the first chill set in. Stephen gestured with a slight tilt of his head. "This way," he said, turning sharply. Emily followed her footsteps, swallowed by the plush carpet. They stopped at a central display glass, gleaming like ice. Inside, a row of timepieces, elegant and intimidating. Silver, gold, obsidian, black. Each one meticulously placed on a pedestal as if sacred. Stephen unlocked the case with a flourish. "These are from our Imperial line," he said, "crafted in Switzerland. Limited runs. Excellent for milestone occasions." He lifted one gently. "This model is sapphire crystal. Self-winding. Retails at $38,000. Emily blinked, then leaned in. The craftsmanship was breathtaking. But the number echoed in her mind like a bell. "Do you have anything simpler?" she asked softly. "Something classic." Stephen paused. His lips curved barely. "Classic," he repeated. "Certainly. Though our classic line still sits above what most people would call modest." The case clicked closed, but the judgment stayed open. Emily kept her tone gentle. "I'm not looking for luxury, really. Just something meaningful. He's turning 70. A watch that feels timeless, you know. Not flashy, just sincere." Stephen tilted his head, a practiced gesture of consideration, but his smile thinned. "Meaning is subjective," he replied smoothly. "Though most of our clientele find meaning in heritage exclusivity craftsmanship, and, of course, value." He moved to a nearby case, not bothering to open it. Inside were more understated pieces, still gleaming, still expensive. "These are our Essential Series. They run about $12,000 to $15,000, a bit more approachable." His eyes flicked toward her purse, then back up, expression neutral, though still quite sophisticated for the right buyer. Emily nodded slowly. She felt the words beneath his words. The implication. She wasn't the right buyer. Still, she stepped closer to the case, her fingers hovering just above the glass. "I'd like to look, if that's all right." Stephen didn't answer right away, but the pause said enough. Stephen exhaled, quiet but audible, then reached into his pocket for a set of keys, jangling slightly as he selected the right one. "Of course," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. He knelt to unlock the case, taking longer than needed, fingers moving with deliberate slowness. Emily waited, standing still, watching. Not fidgeting, not filling the silence, just waiting. When the lock finally clicked, Stephen lifted the lid and retrieved a modest watch-slim leather band, brushed steel face, Roman numerals. Simple. Elegant. "This one's around $9,800, he said. "Quartz movement, American-made, not exactly a showstopper, but sentimental types tend to like it." His words landed soft but sharp. Emily didn't flinch. She leaned closer, studying the curves of the piece. "It's beautiful," she said. Stephen's eyes narrowed just slightly. "You're welcome to try it on, though we usually reserve that for serious buyers." He handed it over anyway, with fingertips, barely touching. Emily took the watch gently, as if it were something fragile, something alive. She slid the leather band around her wrist, tightening the clasp with care. The cool metal kissed her skin. It fit perfectly. The weight was light, but the meaning wasn't. For a moment, the noise of the boutique faded. She saw a porch swing back in Oregon, an old man reading the newspaper with coffee in hand. His quiet chuckle. His calloused fingers winding a rusted pocket watch always 10 minutes fast. "Time isn't just hours," he once said. "It's everything you remember while it passes." She blinked, returned to now. "This one feels right," she said quietly, more to herself than to Stephen. Stephen didn't respond. He just folded his arms. 9/8 before tax, he reminded. No returns, no adjustments, payment up front. Emily nodded. She wasn't asking for a favor. She was buying back a memory. Just as Emily was gently inspecting a modest timepiece, a sharp voice rang through the showroom. "Oh, look, Claire, are we letting charity cases in now?" It was Veronica Langford, heiress influencer and self-declared fashion authority. She sauntered in, flanked by 2 other women and a tiny dog in a designer tote. Her voice was sweetened with venom. That watch would look adorable on a thrift store shelf, wouldn't it? Claire flinched. Emily looked up calm but firm. "I'm here to buy a gift, not to entertain you." Veronica tilted her head mockingly. "Still chasing what you can't have, huh?" Some things never change. It wasn't the first time they'd met. Years ago, Veronica had tried to catch the attention of Andrew Parker unsuccessfully, and she remembered Emily's name ever since. Now she wanted her moment back. Stephen stepped in, sensing the tension but not the cause. "Miss Langford, always a pleasure. Let me show you our new limited collection." Veronica waved a manicured hand toward Emily. "Let her go first. She looks like she's in a rush to get back to folding towels somewhere." The room chuckled politely. Emily exhaled slowly. The pain wasn't in the insult but the familiarness of it. She remembered how Veronica had cornered her at a gala once just to whisper, "You'll never fit into this world." Stephen glanced between the women, confused. "Do you 2 know each other?" Emily smiled faintly. "Only by reflection." Veronica rolled her eyes, stepping deeper into the display area. "Whatever. She won't buy anything real anyway." Claire bit her lip. She'd seen this pattern before, but this time something in Emily's stillness hinted maybe this wasn't going to end the same way. As Stephen displayed diamond-trimmed watches for Veronica, Claire quietly approached Emily. "If you'd like. There's a collection in the back room. Less flashy but still elegant." Emily nodded, grateful. "Thank you. I'm looking for something meaningful, not loud." Veronica overheard. "Meaningful. Oh, honey, is that what broke girls call cheap now?" Stephen laughed reflexively, then realized no one else did. He cleared his throat. "Let's keep the atmosphere professional." Veronica wasn't done. "So where's your rich husband now, Miss Parker?" "Did he finally trade up?" Emily didn't flinch, but her knuckles whitened around the strap of her bag. "He's home, building things that last." The way she said it, quiet, composed, made even Claire pause. Veronica scoffed but didn't reply, because something about that sentence felt heavier than it should have. Emily followed Claire into the quieter section of the showroom. The watches here were simpler, clean faces, leather bands, quiet details. Veronica's laughter echoed faintly from the main floor, but Emily was far from it now. She ran her fingers along a case containing a brushed steel piece engraved with the word "Endure." Claire glanced at her. "I think you're handling this way better than most would." Emily smiled softly. "I've had practice." Then she looked Claire in the eye. "When you grow up being told you don't belong, you start learning how to stand quietly." Claire didn't know what to say. She just nodded. Outside, Veronica flipped her hair, still certain she ruled the room. But in this corner, under softer light, something unshakable was growing, and it wore plain shoes. Stephen's smile returned, but this time it didn't reach his eyes. That one he repeated, glancing at the modest watch as if it were beneath discussion. Emily nodded. Calm. Certain. "I'd like to purchase it." Stephen hesitated, then slowly shut the display case with a soft click. He stood straight, folding his arms. "Just so you're aware," he said, voice level but cool. We don't offer payment plans or extended holds. This location is card or certified funds only, and of course, full payment up front. Emily met his gaze. That's fine. He looked almost disappointed. Very well. I'll ring it up at the front. If the card clears. He turned sharply, walking toward the register without waiting. Claire remained at her station, glancing at Emily not with pity, but with something closer to silent apology. Emily followed, dignified, unbothered. But inside her heart beat louder than any ticking watch. Stephen stood behind the register, sliding the watch's tag across the scanner with slow, deliberate motion. The screen blinked. He adjusted his tie unnecessarily. Emily handed over her card. He took it between two fingers as if it were damp. One moment, he said, inserting it with theatrical pause. Sometimes lower-tier banks flag high-value purchases. Let's see. He didn't whisper. A couple browsing nearby turned their heads. Emily kept her expression neutral, hands at her sides, eyes steady. Stephen tapped the terminal. Waited. Tapped again. His brows furrowed. Strange. Taking a while to process, he said loud enough to float across the boutique. Claire looked up from the side, her fingers tightening around a display cloth. It's processing, she said gently. You just have to wait. Stephen glanced at her, then back at the screen. We'll see if it clears. Emily said nothing. She didn't need to. Not yet. A soft ding lit up the terminal. Approved. Stephen's jaw tightened. He pulled the receipt, folded it with precision, then placed the watch into its velvet-lined box. No smile, no congratulations. There, he said flatly. All set. Receipt's in the bag. Emily took it gently. Thank you, she said sincerely. No sarcasm, no edge. That seemed to bother him more. As she turned to leave, Stephen added, just loud enough, we do have higher-end options if you ever decide to upgrade. Emily paused for half a second. I didn't come here for status, she said quietly. Just a gift. And I found it. She didn't wait for a response. She walked toward the exit steps light. Behind her, Claire watched silently, mouthing a word, respect. Stephen turned away, busying himself with nothing, because he'd lost the moment, and everyone in the room knew it. Emily was almost at the door when it came. A crisp laugh, measured sharp, rang out from across the boutique. Well, look at that, Veronica called. A triumph. Budget elegance has found its place. Emily turned slightly, just enough to meet the room. Veronica sauntered forward, arms folded like a queen, surveying a jester. Congrats, she added. I mean that. Really. You've shown us all that grit and sincerity can buy. About $9,000 worth of humility. A few soft chuckles echoed. Stephen didn't intervene. Emily let the silence sit for a moment. Then she smiled, not smug but real. Some people buy what shines. Others buy what lasts. Veronica raised an eyebrow. And which are you? The one who won't be back, Emily said. She turned bag in hand. The boutique doors opened. And this time it wasn't the watch that made the statement. It was the way she walked out. The glass doors closed behind her with a gentle hush. For a beat, Emily just stood there on the polished stone steps of Hudson Lux Plaza, letting the air hit her face. It wasn't dramatic. No tears, no shaking hands, just relief. She inhaled slowly. The breeze lifted a strand of hair across her cheek. In her bag, the watch box rested quietly, its weight no longer intimidating, but comforting, earned. She took a few steps toward the street. The noise of the city returned Horn's footsteps, a distant saxophone, and beneath it her mind drifted. She could already hear Mr. Walter's voice. You didn't have to get me anything, kid. Just seeing you's enough. But she did have to, because some people don't get thanked the way they deserve until it's almost too late. She crossed the street, slowly, carefully, cradling both time and memory. Emily stood at the corner counter, clutching the watch she'd chosen. It was understated, but it reminded her of her father's kindness, quiet, resilient. She turned to Claire. I'd like to purchase this, please. Before Claire could respond, Stephen swooped in. "That model isn't available for purchase right now. Please leave." Emily blinked. "But it's displayed." "I said it's not available," he snapped, then gestured toward the door. "We don't want scenes." Claire tried to interject. "Stephen, she's not." But Stephen cut her off. "If she doesn't leave now, I'll have to involve mall security." The shift was shocking. Other customers turned to look. Emily's breath caught. "I have the money. I can pay. And I have rules. Move." He stepped closer, hand just short of touching her elbow. That was the first time Emily stepped back. Not out of fear, out of rising resolve. Claire stood frozen as Stephen hovered near Emily, his posture loud with disdain. "We're not a charity," he muttered loud enough for others to hear. Emily's voice stayed even. "I didn't ask for charity, just a fair transaction." Stephen scoffed. "That's rich. You think flashing a debit card gives you the right to act entitled?" Emily looked him squarely in the eye. "No, but neither does a name tag." The room chilled. Veronica smirked from across the floor phone in hand, possibly recording. Claire finally stepped between them. "Stephen, she's done nothing wrong. She was ready to buy." Stephen rolled his eyes. "You think this is about money? It's about preserving the store's standards." Emily spoke calmly. "Then maybe your standards need an update." That one line was sharper than any scream, and it landed deeper. Emily placed the watch gently on the counter, standing tall. "I'd like to complete my purchase now. You said it's unavailable, but that's a lie." Stephen's nostrils flared. "Excuse me. You're not protecting the brand. You're protecting your ego." Murmurs started in the room. Some customers had begun filming. Veronica's tone turned mocking. "What is this, a protest? You'll embarrass yourself, sweetie." But Emily no longer looked small. She looked unshakable. Claire glanced at Stephen, then reached slowly for the register. "She's within her rights, Stephen." He slammed the drawer shut. "If you touch that till you're done." Emily turned to Claire. "I don't want anyone to lose their job. I just want to be treated like a customer." Claire whispered, "You are." And that single act of reaching for the scanner sparked a shift no one could stop. Stephen stormed to the back, muttering threats about reports and reprimands. Veronica, sensing the balance shift, leaned on sarcasm. "Let's all clap for the brave little shopper." Emily didn't look her way. Instead, she pulled out her wallet, quietly counting out exact bills. Claire processed the transaction with trembling fingers. I think it went through," she said. Emily nodded. "That's all I needed." The receipt printed. In that moment, the store was dead silent. Even the soft jazz playing overhead seemed unsure. A purchase had been made, but something far greater had been claimed: dignity. Emily took the bag with care. Her hands trembled not with fear but with clarity. She turned to Claire. "Thank you, not just for this, for seeing me." Claire swallowed hard. "You shouldn't have had to earn that." Veronica clicked her tongue. "Are we done with the hallmark moment?" Stephen returned from the back, breathing hard. "What's going on?" He froze. Because standing at the store entrance was someone none of them expected. Two men in discreet suits parted like curtains, and in walked Andrew Parker. Andrew stepped through the polished threshold with quiet power. Stephen paled. "Mr. Parker, sir, we didn't know." Andrew held up a hand. "Who made my wife feel unwelcome?" Everyone turned. Even Veronica's smirk died mid-twist. Emily didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Andrew walked up beside her, rested a hand gently on her back. "Did she cause a disturbance?" he asked, looking at Stephen. "No, sir, but—" "Did she insult anyone? Not—" "Exactly. Then why was security involved?" Stephen's mouth moved, but no sound came out. Andrew's voice dropped cool steady. "In my company, perception never justifies prejudice." Silence. Again. Only this time it was their silence. Emily finally looked up and smiled. The bus hissed to a stop just after sunrise. The sky was still pale, not quite awake. Emily stepped off duffel slung over one shoulder, watch box secured in her jacket pocket. The streets were quiet, familiar. The kind of quiet that makes you hold your breath, afraid to break it. She turned the corner. There it was, the little green house with peeling paint and wind chimes whispering above the porch. Her feet slowed. The porch light was on. That light had always meant, I'm awake. I'm here. You're not alone. Emily climbed the steps one by one, hands cold. She knocked softly. Once. Twice. No answer. Her heart thudded louder than her fist. She tried the knob. Unlocked. The door creaked open into a hallway that smelled of coffee grounds, pine soap, and thyme. "Walter," she called out. No reply, but somewhere inside. She could hear breathing. She stepped inside, every creak of the wooden floor a memory. The hallway led to the living room, sunlight barely spilling through the curtains. And there he was. Walter, wrapped in his favorite flannel robe, hunched slightly in his armchair. His hands rested on the armrests like paper folded long ago. His eyes were closed. Emily froze. "Walter," she whispered. He stirred, slow and deliberate, as if surfacing from deep water. Then his eyes opened, cloudy but sharp, and when he saw her, that smile and the same crooked, warm grin he'd given her every time she came home from school with a drawing or from college with doubts. "There's my girl," he rasped. Emily dropped the bag, crossed the room in 2 steps, and knelt beside him. "I brought something," she said, her voice already trembling. "You did," he whispered back, "but I only needed you." Emily reached into her coat pocket and pulled out the small box, carefully wrapped ribbon slightly creased from the trip. "I thought, you might like something new," she said. Walter raised his eyebrows, amused. "Something new? At my age?" His hands trembled slightly as he untied the ribbon. Slow, deliberate, almost ceremonial. When he opened the lid, he didn't speak. He just stared at the watch resting inside. Leather band. Clean lines. Simple, elegant. His thumb brushed the face. His breathing caught for a moment. "It's beautiful," he murmured. "Just like the one I gave your dad." Before he left. Emily blinked, caught off guard. He smiled softly. "You remembered how it looked. Didn't think you noticed." "I noticed everything," she whispered. Walter took her hand, gripping it tighter than his strength should have allowed. "Time's the only gift that counts, Em. And this tells me you understood." Walter leaned back, cradling the watchbox in his lap like it was made of glass. Emily reached into her bag again, pulling out the cream-colored card, the one with the little gold clock embossed on the front. "I wrote you something," she said softly. He adjusted his glasses with shaking fingers. Emily opened the card and began to read. "Dear Walter, you taught me time wasn't something to fear. You taught me how to use it, how to wait with it, and how to spend it right. I didn't always say thank you, so this is me saying it now with all the time I have left." Her voice cracked on the last line. Walter didn't speak. A tear slipped quietly down his cheek, resting in the folds of his smile. He reached out, cupped her face. "That's all I ever needed, kiddo." Andrew stood beside Emily, commanding the room without raising his voice. Stephen, flustered, muttered, I didn't realize if I had known she was Andrew cut him off. That's the point, Stephen. You shouldn't have to know who someone is to treat them with dignity." Veronica stepped back, pale. Andrew turned to Emily, ignoring the crowd. "You okay?" Emily nodded quietly. They just saw what they wanted to see. He smiled. That's always been their mistake. Andrew scanned the store, addressing everyone, now not with anger, but clarity. "Emily isn't wealthy because she married me. She was wealthy in spirit long before I knew her." Veronica flinched. "She taught me humility, and every time I forget, she reminds me by being exactly who she is." A quiet gasp echoed from a corner. Emily's eyes shimmered, but she held firm. Andrew took her hand. "Let's go home." She hesitated, then looked at Claire. "Thank you." Again. Claire nodded, misty-eyed. Stephen stood frozen, his authority hollow now. As they stepped away, Veronica blurted out, "So, that's it? You embarrass all of us and leave like a saint." Emily turned back, calm, not angry. "I didn't embarrass you. You did that all by yourself," Veronica stammered. "You think money makes you better?" Emily smiled. "No, that's what you think. I just came to buy a watch." With that, she turned and walked away. Every step felt louder than any scream. Customers who had watched silently began murmuring, some nodding, some smiling. And Stephen. He finally lowered his eyes. That evening at home, Emily placed the watch in a velvet box. She sat by a framed photo Walter, her adoptive father, smiling with his signature gentle squint. "It's yours now," she whispered. Flashback. Just a few lines. "Remember, Emmy Walter once said you don't have to shout to be strong. You just have to stand." She smiled to herself. No revenge, no fury, just peace. News of the incident would spread clips already circling online, but Emily didn't care. She sat by the window, tea in hand, wearing a quiet smile. Andrew looked over. "You didn't say a word about what happened." "Didn't need to. You always were better at silence than I was." She chuckled. "Because sometimes silence speaks loudest." And it had. Louder than insult. Louder than luxury. Louder than fear. Hudson Lux Plaza shimmered under the Manhattan afternoon light. Inside arc-light timepieces, everything looked exactly the same. Glass counters, spotless display lights, perfectly angled soft jazz humming from hidden speakers. Stephen, the store manager, adjusted his cufflinks behind the counter, chatting with Veronica, still draped in designer labels, still flaunting her curated smile. "Honestly," she said, sipping from a crystal water glass, "that girl was probably bluffing. The one with the flats. Probably borrowed someone's card." Stephen smirked. "Trust me, I've been in retail long enough. You can spot real money a mile away." Veronica laughed, flipping her hair. "Well, let's just hope she found a thrift store with a clearance section." Claire, the junior associate, stood nearby, quiet, uneasy. Her eyes drifted toward the front doors. Something felt different today. The kind of calm right before a wave hits. And across the room, a customer stepped in, one they'd never expect. The glass doors of arc-light timepieces opened with a soft chime. Emily stepped in first, still in her same quiet coat, same calm expression. Beside her, Andrew entered, hands in his pockets, posture relaxed. To Stephen, they looked like any other mid-tier couple, maybe tourists, maybe out of their league. He didn't flinch. "Welcome," he called without looking up, barely polite. "Feel free to browse." Claire turned. Her breath caught. She'd seen that man before on the back cover of Forbes during a brand strategy training. But it didn't click until Andrew stepped forward, removed his sunglasses, and glanced casually around the store. Then Stephen looked up and froze. Veronica tilted her head, confused. Stephen's face drained of color. Because staring him down was not just a customer. It was Andrew Parker, CEO of ArcLight Billionaire, and the man whose signature was on every paycheck in that building. And he wasn't smiling. The silence hit like glass cracking. Stephen straightened his tie, trying to recover. "Mr. Parker." We weren't expecting Andrew's voice, cut through low and calm. "Stephen, may I ask you something?" Stephen nodded too quickly. "Of course. Anything." Andrew took one slow step forward. "If a woman walks into this store dressed simply, carrying no visible wealth, do you assume she's unworthy of our service?" Stephen opened his mouth, then closed it again. The room had gone still. Veronica blinked, suddenly unsure where to place her smirk. "No, sir. I mean, of course not. We treat all customers with professionalism." Andrew looked to Claire. "Is that how you experienced it?" Claire hesitated, then shook her head. "Not exactly, sir." Andrew nodded, gaze shifting to Emily, who remained silent, letting her presence say what words couldn't. Then he looked back at Stephen. "Let's talk about what professional actually means." Stephen fumbled forward. "Mrs. Parker, I want to apologize." I had no idea Emily raised a hand, gently stopping him mid-sentence. "That I was married to the CEO," she said, calm. "Or that I was human." The words landed heavier than any raised voice. Veronica shifted uncomfortably, arms crossed tighter. Emily glanced around the showroom. Her eyes weren't angry, just tired. "You judged me because I didn't fit your image of wealth, but what I wear or how I speak doesn't define my worth." She walked past the premium display, pausing just beside Veronica. "One day, you'll realize silence speaks louder than gold." Then to Claire she offered a soft smile. "Thank you for being the only one who saw me." Andrew placed a reassuring hand on her back. Together they turned and left without needing to slam a single door, but the silence behind them. That said everything. The glass doors of arc-light timepieces closed behind them. Outside, the city moved as always, horns, footsteps, lives colliding. Emily and Andrew walked in quiet. No parade, no camera flash, just the sound of two people who knew who they were. Behind them, inside the store, no one spoke. Stephen stared blankly at the exit. Veronica picked at her manicure, avoiding eye contact. Claire finally exhaled. Out on the sidewalk, Emily paused. She looked up at the massive arc-light billboard above the plaza. It read, "Time reveals character," and now it had. She didn't need a spotlight. She already had what mattered: respect, love, and a name she didn't borrow but had earned. In a world obsessed with appearances, let this remind us kindness, dignity, and quiet strength never go out of style. If this story moved you, share it. Someone out there needs to remember they are enough.